Ms. S.P. Maria Mahmood, I'd like to ask you now specifically. Now, there are many accusations and things which are said about the police and the quality of their investigation or the effectiveness of their investigation. What challenges have you seen the police face, particularly in investigation and pursuit of cases of rape and sodomy?
Congratulations on arranging wonderful, putting together such a good conference, and thank you for inviting me over, because I really see that police being a very important stakeholder, and as everybody puts it, being the gatekeepers of the criminal justice system, it's really our responsibility to explain our part of the problem. Because solutions are usually wrapped up within the problem, and you really have to find it, and you really have to find where everybody is doing or not doing their share of the job. As you pointed out, and I will restrict myself to only the anti-rape legislation part, because really this is a big complex problem, and complex problems always require complex solutions. But as far as this progressive legislation is concerned, I'm very happy to say that now we are very safely legislated as far as anti-rape law is concerned. We have had a few laws before that, but a few strengths of this anti-rape law is the special courts that have been envisioned, the special committee, the anti-rape crisis centers. These anti-rape crisis centers, I must add here, are called SARC back in the UK, and they've been there for the last 2 decades. They are a good practice and they are a good intervention there, but it's a very focused approach with which the British police works there. They also realize that what probably is lacking in the law is that there are 3 really components of the anti-rape crisis centers. Number 1 is the forensics part, number 2 is the evidence collection part, and number 3 is the aftercare services. Probably this is a good idea to probably amend the law if it is deemed suitable to add these things, because that really enables the whole criminal justice system in general and the police in particular to process the case well. As far as the question goes of faulty investigations and not being sensitized to the rape, either the legislation, the law, or the FIR part of it, I really must emphasize here that police, with all its shortcomings of resources and of capacity and of training, is really doing a wonderful job when it comes to our counterterrorism departments. Through a lot of very tricky investigations, you randomly go and pick up any district in the whole of the country, and very small district, very small trained police, and they are still tracing and investigating and detecting blind murders and double murders and whatnot. So I really think it's more of an issue of sensitization and training and mainstreaming of more women into the police force, and also training them repeatedly. Plus, it has to be an approach when it comes to the sensitization part, that it has to be a top-down approach. Because the police, the junior ranks, they respond really well to the trainings and to the sensitization. And given the social context, probably the trainings come in handy there as well. Because the social fabric, where you have the unequal distribution of power, as Ms. Reem pointed out, and then Madam Fawzia pointed out, I think it is really an unequal distribution of power, the power relations. And I would also add that this unequal power relationing, the power that a person feels, people usually, complainants come to us usually with, they're very educated ladies, very empowered ladies, but they are usually being harassed at, in the streets, in public spaces, by somebody who is not even employed, uneducated, because it's the power that a man has to make a woman feel uncomfortable. Such is the magnitude of the problem that we face. Even then, we are trying to sensitize the police and to train them and to build their capacity, but I'm sure that if I have diagnosed the problem well, probably it's a matter of priority more than capacity or training or anything else. So probably if we make it a priority with the police, which I'm happy in the last decade or so, with more female officers joining the police service, not only at the junior ranks level, but at the officers level, I think that there is a natural tendency of the police to get sensitized when you see more women around. You know that it's a natural phenomenon, and women are here and they will prosper and they will make it to leadership positions. So they also have a say and a voice for the vulnerable groups, for women. And I really do not restrict myself only to women. I usually say that all the vulnerable groups, any person who is really in a position of vulnerability, police is really the only one, after God, who can respond to that. Really, it's a matter of justice, and police can really dispense with a lot of justice and relief when it comes to all these people. So I'll just restrict my comments till here. I'm sure there are some questions as well, but again, coming back to your question, probably it's a matter of prioritizing the way we approach the whole question of rape and gender-based violence. And probably if we get there, naturally a lot of problems are going to resolve themselves.
Thank you so much, Madam. How do you see this law, and particularly the new structure such as the anti-rape crisis cell, how do you see that being translated into an on-ground reality? And what would be your recommendations from a police perspective about how to improve the attitude and perceptions within the police? I know you mentioned increased female officers, but how do you actually get them into leadership positions?
I think this is a very pertinent question, and I will take lead from what Madam Fawzia said about, the things that policing being a provincial subject, how does the law gets trickled down to the level of provinces and down to the level of chiefs of police, or the IGPs as we call them? Because as I understand from the law, that the Prime Minister is in the law is the authorized person to initiate the cells, the rape crisis centers. So I believe that if we trust police enough, I think a chief of police is high enough a level of command that they can always initiate the crisis centers themselves, because it's very time costly and probably it will take some time. So if we really wanted to get translated into action immediately, I don't really think that unless that the Prime Minister really has time to sit down for it, it will cost some time. Secondly, I'm really concerned about the accountability metrics that has been defined there, because first of all, there seems to be a dichotomy between what it says that either the commissioner or the deputy commissioner is going to head the cell, and then there are going to be JITs and etc., etc. But when it comes to what in the last 7 decades, what we have seen, and my own experience of almost 14 years of policing, that wherever there is a accountability matrix, it always falls upon the shoulders of police, and somebody gets punished. I'm sure that there are so many complaints of police not being punished for their faulty investigations. But as you can see from the Minar-e-Pakistan incident, or so many other incidents of gender-based violence in the recent years, basically the matrix has to include everyone in the flow of the criminal justice. It has to be the prosecutors. Many a times when I was investigating a lot of sexual assault cases of whether women or children, the medical legal reports are very questionable. The doctors simply, the lady doctors, they are in fear of, out of fear of reporting the right crime. They say that we are sending the DNA to such and such lab, and we are sending this evidence to such and such lab, and they basically try to remain in the shadows. So if it's really the police doing the job, as I understand, a lot of the investigating officers who are good investigating officers, they try to stay away from the assault cases, because usually the outcomes are very much, it's sort of an open and shut case for them, because they know somebody is going to resign, somebody is going to go for an out-of-court settlement. So it's really a mess for us. So I'm really concerned that if it has to be an accountability, it has to be for the whole flow of the flow. Everybody has to be responsible for the wrong or right decisions that they make. Secondly, I would really want to see that it talks about, there are so many good things in it, and having an independent support advisor is a very good initiative in it. But the advisor must accompany every victim and must not be put at the discretion of the head of the crisis cell, which I earlier pointed out must be either an RPO or a DPO. It has to be a police officer, because if our understanding is that so much is going wrong within the police investigation and the response of the police, then we really must make it the problem of the police. And I don't know how so many cooks, spoiling the broth would solve the problem. And then while framing the rules, we must understand that once you have the law, and then you have the procedures, and then you really have to confine it to the rules of the business, as we call them. So at the level of the police, an effort is being made in the last year or so that we are able to frame some rules according to the law, so that there is some SOP, how we are supposed to respond to such an incident, who is supposed to be there, who is the one who is the first responder, has to collect what from there. And then we can really point a finger at who was responsible and did not do the job well. And lastly, I must appreciate the concept of keeping a register for sex offenders. That's a practical solution, but again, there is this whole mix-up of keeping the database where, because as we understand that NADRA is the custodian of all the database, but I think that we must trust the police enough that we can keep a register of sex offenders with us, and then we can actually, because we have a criminal record office with us, it's a digitalized CRO for the last 10 years or so, and it's a lot of data being shared at the provincial level. Interprovincial, we have the database of Sindh being shared with Punjab, being shared with KP. So I think that we can keep a diary, and that will actually help the police, and it will also help with the promptness. That is the quickness of response that is expected of the police. Probably it will help there. And lastly, this just a clear flow of chain of command and of responsibility. It has to be there. Otherwise, if it's all messed up, I think that there is going to be every person saying that it was not my responsibility. So we work in a hierarchy. The uniformed services, they work in a very defined hierarchy. So it has to be in a hierarchical fashion that all the things, the JITs, the committees, and the crisis centers, the responsibility of who is going to be the head of the crisis center, it has to be done in a very clear manner. It has to be transparent, and it must really enunciate who is responsible for what part of the job. Thank you.
Thank you so much.